BBC News now for Gloucestershire. Here's Emily Slater.
FIFA's president Sepp Blatter.
Let's get the latest BBC News now for Gloucestershire. Here's Emily Slater.
FIFA's president Sepp Blatter.
Ditched in Stow, preparing to travel literally stateside.
This quilt will be shown, in fact, in an incredible museum that they have in Appomattox, which is what they've done is that they've actually brought buildings from all over Virginia. So there is a general store, there is an old barracks, there's a chapel, there's a log cabin, and they've physically moved them into one place in order to preserve them. So their museum is actually a field with buildings in. And I imagine that this will actually be displayed in the old general store, which looks exactly as it did at the end of the 19th century. It's quite incredible.
BBC Radio Gloucestershire.
It's amazing what they've done. Literally moved it brick by brick, and they're going to be putting in this community quilt, which is being sent from Stow on the Wold in the new year, being sent over to Virginia, to the US town of Appomattox. Hopefully, we will cross live to Appomattox in the next 15 minutes and find out their reaction to it being sent over there. So some more music now. In the mood, Stiffities, Michael Bublé on BBC Radio Gloucestershire. Monday afternoon with Dominic Cutter here till 5. Now, really excited about this next story. It's a community quilt. It's been stitched in Stow. I went along to have a look at it actually last week. Amazing. And it's preparing to travel stateside. The patchwork is a surprise present from the Stow on the Wold to the US town of Appomattox in Virginia. The colourful Civil War quilt celebrates a newly forged friendship link based on a historical parallel. And you'll hear all about that in a moment. And you will hear also from Tom Adams, who is in the town of Appomattox at the moment. He's Vice President of the Historical Society over the ponds, so to speak. In a moment, though, from here, from the Cotswolds, you'll hear from Friendship Link Coordinator Derek Taylor and also some of the stitchers as well, who've been working so hard to make all of this happen. But first of all, I caught up with Nigel Sermon, who's chairman of the Stow and District Civil Society.
Hello, Dominic. Welcome to Stow on the Wold.
Thank you very much indeed. We should explain we're standing in the entrance lobby of the library, and of course we can see the quilt there behind the glass, and this is really for everyone to enjoy, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, yes. It's been a community effort, and we're very, very pleased about it.
What's the background? How did all of this happen?
Well, the Stow Cotswold Festival had an American theme to it this year, and we felt this was a very good opportunity to showcase our friendship link that we forged with Appomattox in Virginia in the USA.
It's going to be very exciting when it gets there. I know that Derek Taylor knows a little bit about the history of the Civil War, because there's a real connection here, isn't there?
Yes, there is indeed. Both places, both Appomattox and Stow on the Wold, are the site of the last battle of civil wars. So Stow, of course, in the English Civil War in 1646, very dramatic. The royalists were chased into the square after the first encounter. There was a massacre here in the square immediately outside where we're standing. It was said that blood ran down Digbeth Street. It was so bad. On the other side of the Atlantic in Appomattox in 1865, it was the end of the American Civil War, and that took place at Appomattox Courthouse. So this is the special link between the two. In that encounter, it was again like the one here. It took place early in the morning. It was over quite quickly, and General Robert E. Lee surrendered to Ulysses S. Grant, and that was the end of the most bloody encounter that humankind has ever seen. So we've got this amazing link, and both towns are about the same size, both rural as well. So it's very special.
Well, let's talk to some of the team that have been involved in actually putting this whole quilt together. Let's start off with Susan Bratton. How did you get roped into all of this?
Rachel asked for volunteers, either to make cakes or to sew, and I can sew better than I make cakes.
And Rachel's here as well. Hi, Rachel.
I am, yes. The idea was to help raise money for the Stow Cotswold Festival. And so we had the idea of sponsoring the hexagons, the 128 hexagons that are on the quilt. But of course we needed ladies to help make the quilt. So chicken and egg, we asked for volunteers, and I was so delighted so many ladies stepped forward, and they're here today.
Stephanie Venn, you've actually designed the quilt, haven't you?
They approached me a while back and asked for ideas, and the links actually got quite scary because I've actually been to Appomattox. My children's godparents live in Virginia, so there was another link there. And I actually thought it would be a good idea to have English paper piecing as the method of putting the quilt together, and also William Morris fabrics, which are very English. So going over to America, we thought that was a nice link.
I'm sure it'll be well received in Appomattox, won't it?
I'm sure they'll love it, yes. Having been there, say, several times, it will be something that they will be very proud to receive.
Pat White's been one of the team involved in stitching this. Just describe what you do.
First of all, I put together the plain hexagons ready for the embroidered captions. After that, my other quilting colleagues completed the hexagon work. I then added the borders and did the quilting.
You must be really pleased with the finished result.
I am very pleased now that I can see it completed.
Derek.
Of course, the thing about the quilt is it's of special importance in the link because during the American Civil War, when the young soldiers went off to fight, their loved ones, their wives or their girlfriends or their mothers used to make quilts for them, not just to keep them warm at night. It was kind of the equivalent of a sleeping bag, but also they used to sew special messages into them. So things like Billy, be safe, or Johnny, be brave in battle, things like that. So that whenever they went to sleep at night, the soldiers, they knew that the messages from the love from those back home was there and was contained actually within the quilt itself. And there is a link here, because when we did this, each of the hexagons we put on this large template that you can see before you now, Dominic, and we got people to sponsor them and to sign them and to put little special messages in. So again, that's a link between the two countries.
Wonderful, wonderful. They've done so much great work. You heard from Derek Taylor there, who's the Friendship Link Coordinator for Stow, and also Nigel Sermon, the Chairman of Stow and District Civil Society, and some of the team of stitchers as well, who've done a fabulous job on that. In fact, you can still see it at the moment before I head stateside. The entrance to the Stow on the Wold library there, you can literally see it. As you walk through the doors, the little cabinet there, it kind of doubles up as a local museum, is there for all to see. A fantastic job they've done on that as well. Well, let's go live to America now, to Virginia, get a little bit of reaction from Tom Adams, who's Vice President of the Historical Society over there in Appomattox. Hello there.
Hi, how you doing this morning?
Really, really well. It's 3:15, 3:17 our time. And what time is it with you at the moment?
It's about 10:20 here.
Okay, civilised time to be talking to you.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about maybe the similarities with Stow, because it's a similar size, I think, Appomattox.
Yes, it's a similar size area, mostly agricultural. We also have a lot of little shops in a downtown area. It's small in population, only about 17,000 people in the whole county.
It's very exciting, this link, isn't it, between the two towns?
Oh, very exciting. Similarities between the two areas is unbelievable, especially, the end of the Civil War over there, the end of the Civil War over here. The historical value of both towns is unbelievable.
What difference is it going to make when the quilts arrive sometime? I think it's in January over to Virginia.
We plan on having press releases for the media. We're going to make a big. We're going to have a little party over the whole thing. I can't believe that our friends over in Stow dedicated themselves to making such a beautiful quilt and sending it over here as a sign of friendship.
Definitely. You heard from some of the team. There'll be more of them we can hear after 3:30 on BBC Radio Gloucestershire. Yet they have been working hard. Are you sort of coming over to pick it up? How's it going to work?
I believe it's going to be mailed to me, and from there I'll present it to the Appomattox County Historical Society at our next meeting.
Have you seen a photograph of it yet, the quilt?
Yes, I have. It was emailed to me from Derek Taylor, and I got a chance to take a look at it, and it's gorgeous.
Definitely. And where will it end up then in Appomattox?
Well, we have two facilities here. We have Clover Hill Village, which is a reenactment village, which is it's made after the original surrender site at the Appomattox Surrender Grounds, the courthouse, which was originally named Clover Hill Village. And we have a general store, we have a church, we have a blacksmith shop, and all these things that we dress up in period outfits and give tours to all the school children in the area. And then we also have a museum in the downtown area, which houses all the artifacts and paperwork and all that stuff that has to do with the historical side of Appomattox itself.
It sounds great. It sounds a little bit similar. I don't know if you've ever been to Williamsburg in Maryland, but it sounds like it could look a little bit similar to that.
Yes, my goal is to eventually make our Clover Hill Village mini Williamsburg.
Well,
which will take a lot of work.
It'll take a lot of work, but it'll be worth it. Just finally then, what would you like to say to the whole team, Derek Taylor and all the other people you heard there, Sue and the whole team, and Nigel Sermon?
Oh, I think you guys did a fantastic job. It really shows the friendship from Stow on the Wold. All the people that worked hard to put this quilt together, I thank you. And I can't wait to see it in person.
Great stuff. It's been great talking to you. Have a great Christmas, Tom.
You too. Take care.
Thank you. Tom Adams there, Vice President of the Historical Society in Stow on the Wold, just reacting to that news that patchwork quilt, community quilt, is going to be heading there in early January. Wonderful story. A bit of a surprise present from the residents of Stow. It's BBC Radio Gloucestershire, 22 minutes past 3 now. In America, and thought, actually, what can we do? What can we do to sort of bring us closer together? So they thought they'd come up with the idea of stitching and creating a community quilt. They've done exactly that, and it's going to be wending its way stateside in the new year. Brilliant story, that. This community quilt has been stitched in the towns, preparing to travel stateside. The patchwork is a surprise present from Stow on the Wold to the US town of Appomattox in Virginia. It's a colourful Civil War quilt celebrating a newly forged friendship link based on a historical parallel of the different civil wars. Obviously, the first one, the first English Civil War, 1646. In Stow, and the Battle of Appomattox Courthouse was the last in the American Civil War in 1865, marking its 150th anniversary this year. Well, I've been along to Stow to talk to some of the team who've been busy stitching and busy kind of organising everything, and I chatted to Derek Taylor. He's one of the team involved, talked to some of the stitchers, and also Nigel Sermon. He's chairman of the Stow and District Civil Society, and he said it's been a real community venture, this. So many people involved.
Another element to this quilt is, of course, that a lot of the school children have been involved in as much as the link with Appomattox. They felt formed a very fruitful link with the children over there at the school in Appomattox. Derek might tell you a little bit more about that.
Yes, it's been really one of the great successes, in fact, of the whole link with Appomattox, and our local headmistress, Rebecca Scott, immediately took that up, and the children write to each other, they communicate with each other all the time, and the thing is about this link is that it's very important, in fact, that we're not inward looking, but that we're outward looking, and that we understand about the history and culture of another place 3,000 miles away. And I think that's particularly beneficial, in fact, for the children here. And the children have been involved with the quilt as well, and they've signed them, and they've seen the quilt, and they've seen it being made. So that's a lovely link, I think, for the next generation.
From the stitching team, what was the hardest bit of this?
I think the hardest bit was getting the borders correctly, because the pattern is fairly large. It took a little bit of mathematics and juggling around to get it right, but I think we did all right in the end.
Do you want to let it go? Because, I mean, I like it though.
I think we'd all love to keep it, but it's a present for those in Appomattox, and I hope that they will be as pleased with it as we are.
Are they going to be sending you something?
Oh, it's a good question for Tom. Yeah, indeed. No, they send us their great regards all the time, in fact, so that's wonderful.
Will they be sending you a quilt?
Well, I'm not sure whether they'll be sending us a quilt, but they did send us a message which we played on a loop during the Cotswold Festival, and it showed us some highlights of their reenactment they had there this last year in April. I have to say it was spectacular. So, but pass on our regards to Tom anyway.
Yes, because of course you haven't been to Appomattox, so it'd be nice to go and see it in situ there, wouldn't it?
It would, yes, very much.
Hint, hint, everyone. Yeah. It's great to have this collection here, Derek Taylor, but it's quite small. Could you do with a bigger sort of display area?
We certainly could. In fact, Stow, is a wonderful place. It's got a fantastic history, but not only that, we've got the most amazing artifacts to actually illustrate it. We've got pieces of Civil War arms and armour. We've got pieces from the Iron Age. We've got an amazing collection of pictures here, in fact, of 17th century pictures. We've got photographs. We need a museum here, and it's one of the things that we in the Civic Society are very keen to press forward.
On the quilt, we should say, it names places associated with the Civil War, doesn't it?
It does indeed, yes. We've got the Battle of Stow in the Wold, which, as we've said, of course, was the final battle of the First Civil War. But also there are others around the outside, in fact, groupings of hexagons which have been sewn with the names of those battles on them. So Edge Hill, for instance, Marston Moor, Newbury and Naseby. And then at the bottom, what we have here is a tribute, in fact, to the Friendship Link. And it says, Stow on the Wold 2015, to our friends in Appomattox on the 150th anniversary of the Battle of Appomattox Courthouse. This quilt will be shown, in fact, in an incredible museum that they have in Appomattox, which is what they've done is that they've actually brought buildings from all over Virginia. So there is a general store, there is an old barracks, there's a chapel, there's a log cabin, and they've physically moved them into one place in order to preserve them. So their museum is actually a field with buildings in. And I imagine that this will actually be displayed in the old general store, which looks exactly as it did at the end of the 19th century. It's quite incredible.
Incredible what the Americans do, isn't it? Moving buildings isn't a problem for them. Final word for Nigel Sermon. You must be proud of the whole team.
Yes, it's been a great project. It seems to have lasted a long time, but then these things do when you're involved. But I'm very, very pleased with it. It's going to be on display here until the end of January, so please do come along during normal library hours to come and see the quilt. But then we must say goodbye to it. It's going to go over to America at the end of January. We've had a very kind offer from a local resident who is going to send it across to them. And we hope to maybe get a message back or see them unloading it at the other end, which would be a nice end to the story.
Yes, Nigel Sermon, part of the team there from Stow on the Wold, from the local Civic Society's chair of the Stow District Civil Society. You can get all the updates of what they're up to there, by the way, www.stowcivicsociety.co.uk. I will update you in January.
The Guide on